Welcome everyone to this webinar, a review of new and upcoming Microsoft Teams features and best practices on how to get the most out of them. Let's start with some introductions. First of all, my name is Vlad Catrinescu. I'm the guy on the right in this picture. I'm a Microsoft MVP from Montreal, Canada, and I'll be your host for this webinar. Joined by me today is my good friend and Microsoft MVP, Regional Director, ex-MCT Regional Lead, all of the Microsoft acronyms you can have. Gokan has them. Gokan Ozcifci. Uh, Gokan, I'm really excited you can join me today for my final webinar of the year. I'm sure most people already know you, but for those who don't, can you do a quick introduction?
It's going to be a long introduction with all of those
I
titles,
wouldn't
but
have expected less.
I'll try to do it like very quickly. My name is Gokan Ozcifci, for those who can speak French, or for the English-minded people or English-speaking people, Vlad did it say correctly, it's Ozcifci. It is maybe the world's worst family name, surname. Please don't try to say it, don't try to spell it, don't try to do anything with that. It's just a big fail from my side. Gokan is more than enough. I'm based in Brussels, Belgium, which is like reigning 380 days of the 365. And that's a major reason why I often move to Turkey to see some sun. I've been in the industry for almost like 15 years and mainly focusing on the collaboration stack in Office 365 and M365, and started with my career with Vlad, I think with SharePoint. And this picture is an amazing picture of Vlad, and I think that was in Dubai when we went there for the keynote for SharePoint Saturday Dubai in 2017, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, 2017, yeah, that is right.
Yeah.
That's definitely not in Canada, judging by the palm trees in the back. But yes, it's in Dubai.
Oh my gosh, time flies. That was great time. And I really hope whenever this pandemic will be over, that you and me, we can again travel the world and teach our knowledge or experience across the world to everyone at the globe who wants to learn about the Microsoft and its ecosystem.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Gokan. Before we get started, just a bit of housekeeping. I know it's boring stuff, but we have to do it. The webinar will be recorded and it will be shared with everyone who registered. In a few days, you will get an email from me with both the recording as well as the slides. Also, please ask your questions. You have a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Please ask your questions. We will do our best to answer all of them. And so far, we've been pretty good on getting all of them answered. Now, this webinar will actually be split into two parts. First of all, for the first 15-20 minutes or so, we will review what are the 7 either brand new or upcoming Microsoft Teams features that me and Gokan believe will have the biggest impact on your digital workplace in 2021. After that, I'll leave the floor to Gokan. I'll probably interrupt from time to time, but I'll leave the floor to Gokan to share what are some of the best practices to get your environment ready, to get your users ready, to get the most out of Microsoft Teams. So let's get started with part one. 7 either new or upcoming Microsoft Teams features, why we think they'll have a huge impact on your digital workplace, and yeah, why. Let's start with the first one, and this one, Gokan, is from your list. I know you're really excited about it. It's Dataverse or Oakdale or Dataflex. I forgot what the actual name is right now, because it's been one of those products that changed name 3 times before it was even born. So
I think Power Automate also does a great job in renaming and getting new names. But yeah, Dataverse is cool as well. And this is, as you mentioned, one of the big game changers that we will have soon in our tenants. It is out now, and many of those tenants already has the option of Dataverse, which is actually Project Oakdale, which is like the former Dataflex, which is like the former CDS, Common Data Service. The Common Data Service, which is like a standard SQL environment or a standard database environment, you can call it however you want to call it. It is something that a few people at Microsoft thinks about how they will create the structure, how they create the modeling on how you will store your data. And being able to access your environment, your Dataverse from Power Apps, well, that's a huge, huge productivity booster in 2020, because we are now building, especially with all the tools that we have in Dynamics 365, with Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power Virtual Agents, we all now have intelligent makers, or citizen developers as we call them, and giving them the possibility to create their environment with their data, intelligent data, and build applications from the hub of collaboration from Teams is an amazing stuff. So that was the first thing I wanted to say. I in the demo, in the part 2, I'm going to show you how you can access within Power Apps and Power Automate, etc., your CDS, or the Dataverse as we call it today. But this is definitely one of those big changes today. And on the right side, you can see a few of those marketing materials. Like, it is easy to manage because you don't have to worry about what the details and how they are stored, because Microsoft is doing that. It is extremely secured because you can give access to people with role-based security. You can access any data with connectors. If you have an application which is based on Dataverse, you can use a connector and get data into SharePoint. You have the logic and validation. You can define some calculated columns, business rules, workflows, and productivity tools like Excel. If you have some tables and fields within Dataverse, well, it is definitely compatible with Microsoft Excel, and it will increase your productivity and ensure your data accessibility. So I felt like I'm going to talk like for 15 seconds, but it was like way more than that. I don't know if, Vlad, you have to add something on top of that.
Gokan, I was going to ask a question that everybody asked me, so I'll ask it to you. Microsoft Lists or Dataverse?
Oh, well.
I never said it was an easy question, by the way.
If you ask me, I will say it depends. It's actually a very typical consultant answer, but lists for me is something that is unique and which is like very simple, and you need to store some data in an easy way. Well, that's going to be your lists, your Microsoft lists. However, if you want to build some complex data with logic and validation, with integrity of numbers and et cetera, well, then I would go for Dataverse, because you can consume that Dataverse also in your Power Automate, in your Power Virtual Agents, in Power BI. So if it's simple, I would say lists. If it's something that it has to be really complex, then I would go for Dataverse.
That's a straightforward answer. Thank you, Gokan. Awesome. Let's go over to the next one, which is actually an upcoming feature, which is webinar registration and generic webinar features for Microsoft Teams. You know, it's kind of ironic, right, Gokan? We're having a webinar about Microsoft Teams, but on Zoom, right? And believe me, a lot of people are telling me, Vlad, why are you using Zoom? Aren't you a Microsoft MVP? Aren't you supposed to like leave and breathe Microsoft all the time? But I've always said that I will always use the best tool. And so far, Zoom had all of the webinar features that I wanted. And the big thing that I was really missing was all of that registration page. I mean, with Zoom, it took me about 10 minutes to set up a webinar, set up the registration page. All of the emails were automated. Everything was just built for that. It was awesome. But with Microsoft Teams, and a lot of people told me, Vlad, you could do it with Microsoft Teams. You just need to create a Power Apps portal. You need to create your CDS database. Then you need to have about 5 Power Automates flows that you got to create to send the reminders. And it's that easy. It'll just take you 3 days of work to create the same thing. Uh, and that's why for this year, I've done all of my webinars on Zoom. But luckily, Microsoft is bringing this functionality to Microsoft Teams. And I think this will have a big impact on the amount of live events we see with external users because it will be so much easier to, in a way, invite those external users in and automate all of this external live events, really, that I think the numbers will increase a lot. And I really look forward, hopefully in 2021. I was hoping this feature would be out by now, but it's not yet. I would hope that all of my webinars in 2021 will be on Microsoft Teams. So, Gokan, maybe our next webinar together will be a Teams live event. That would be
Oh my
awesome.
gosh, that would be really great. That would be really awesome.
But
Looking
yes, I'm
forward.
really looking forward to that one, and especially since, let's be honest, GoToWebinar, Zoom, they're not cheap platforms, right? So I think a lot of, especially smaller organizations, will really be able to use Teams up to 10,000 users for free as part of their license. Awesome. Anything you'd like to add on this one, Gokan?
No, you did it tremendously good. I had nothing to add. That was great.
Yeah, I'm still not a Zoom MVP, but hopefully it will allow me to keep my Microsoft one from now on. Uh, awesome. Next one, a feature that again recently came out, but it's one that changed name a few times as well. Microsoft Tasks in Teams, which I think
Oh
was
my God.
Planner, then Tasks by Planner and To Do.
Yeah. So this is like for me, if somebody ever went in any of my sessions about IT pros, Teams for IT pros or SharePoint for IT pros, I usually start my session with one question. And Vlad, I'm asking that question to you as well. How many to-dos or how many tasking engines we have in the whole Office 365 ecosystem?
Let's see, we got Project, we got SharePoint Tasks, Outlook Tasks, Planner, and To Do. Only 5.
Wunderlist, which is now deprecated, but we had Wunderlist like 6.
Oh, and Project Mocha.
Yeah.
Bryce just put it in the chat. Thank you, Bryce. I forgot about that one, Project Mocha as well.
So we had like a bunch of those tasking engines in Office 365. And at the end, honestly, between you and me and all other participants, Vlad, there was a real mess to say in which tool you had what kind of tasks. And this one, like the task in Microsoft Teams, which is now out and GA for everyone, it will change the game because it will concentrate or concatenate every single task you have from your Outlook, from your channels, from your to-dos, and it will give that to you in one single page. And you can see your tasks, your important tasks, even tasks that are actually with no dates. And you can create new plans from that screen. So we are going away from having multiple applications which are not synchronized at all to one page within Microsoft Teams, which has all the information coming from different tools. So this is, for me, from a tasks engine perspective, definitely a game changer.
And let's be honest, it's still not a single task engine, but it allows us to view all of them in a single pane at least. So from an end user point of view, we only got one location to view all of them.
Absolutely. And coming from channels, coming from your to-do, coming from your Outlook, well, you don't have to switch from screen to screen or from application to application. All of them is now actually available for you into your Teams. And Microsoft is actually doing what they have promised to us, creating one single experience, one single hub for everything. And that's typically what you can see. We're coming from multiple applications to one single application to see and manage our tasks in Teams.
And just to validate with you, Gokan, so the tasks in Microsoft Teams will basically bring tasks. I don't want to go too technical, but it brings tasks from Planner and To Do, and Outlook tasks also fill in To Do. So this covers basically those three engines:
Yes,
Outlook
absolutely.
tasks, To Do, and Planner.
Yes.
What's happening with SharePoint tasks? What is the plan for those?
I'm not aware of any of those tasks with SharePoint, if they will ever be in this
Back?
new engine. Yeah. Like I remember we had like a bunch of discussions with Microsoft, and I don't know if you remember, we said like tasks and calendar is one of the most demanded features at Microsoft, and they told us, no, 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 we will never do that. And then suddenly 6 months later, we had the calendar view. Um, I don't know if you have the information, please share them with the attendees. But I honestly have no view on what Microsoft is preparing to bring the SharePoint tasks into tasks for Teams.
Awesome. And what about Project Mocha? I know I've read about it and I have a slight idea of what it is, but do you
Yeah,
have any information about that since it
yeah.
was mentioned in the chat?
Yeah, so Project Mocha is actually something that has been developed by the Exchange team. And when you see the interface, it is definitely not something about Office 365. However, it looks more like the Google G Suite. It is extremely intuitive. You can create a lot of great tasks and have multiple boards with widgets into your screen. However, again, it's yet another tool for doing the same what Planner and SharePoint task or Wunderlist and To Do can do. So there was a huge discussion why Microsoft ever did that. Honestly, I never used it because I never had the intention of going away from Planner, because I simply love how simple Planner it is and how easy it is to use. And now you can see that at least from a team's perspective, they're bringing the accent on Planner and not on Project Mocha. And if you want to use Project Mocha, it is an add-on on the Outlook for web. So you can't use Project Mocha on your FAT client. It is something only available online. And you will see, you will be shocked by the difference. It has nothing to do with what we have now in the Office 365 suite.
Awesome. Thank you for that insight. Now, the fourth one. This is again one that's a bit dear to your heart, Gokan.
Breakout rooms. Oh my gosh, this is. Oh, let me explain you. Like like you and me, we love talking, right? We could talk about technology for hours, give our insights, and we both work for a vendor which is like one of the best digital workplace solutions in the sector, and with so many great-minded people. If you talk about the topic, and if you're like a lot into that room, take the example, we are now like 10 or 11 MVPs. Well, sometimes it's not easy to get the most of that meeting. And having breakout rooms is a powerful feature that Teams is bringing to us, so we can divide that meeting into smaller sessions where we could have multiple meetings and come to a discussion about personal issues, as an example, or we can address topics that were missed into that big meeting. You can host department-specific discussions with breakout rooms. Smaller meeting halls attendees are actually more accountable. Like discussion with Vlad in one-to-one will give me more results than a discussion with 50 other people and then taking that in 1 hour in action. You can also have those breakout rooms for having some workshops. Like we do a lot of workshops from a technology perspective, and you could have a Microsoft Teams workshop in your organization and then create a breakout room one for IT pros, create another one for developers, create another one from a governance perspective, and the last one from end users. And anyone in your organization who wants to learn about Microsoft Teams can come into that meeting and then just join another breakout room and ask questions and have some private moment with those who are in that breakout room. You have a bunch of limitations, such as only the meeting organizer can start a breakout room, or you have to use the new meeting experience, which is like literally popping out the Teams meeting chat. I'm pretty sure Vlad can write the link of Microsoft whenever he sends out the recording. But this is definitely something I'm looking forward, because we as event organizers, we as technical people, or even as IT department organization, it is a great benefit to being able to split those big meetings into smaller one and discuss about X, Y, Z.
Awesome, thank you. And I think this originally started from the classroom needs, right? Like
Yeah,
splitting
definitely.
people into, like, you're in a class, go split into teams of 4, and then come back here and we'll share the results. But
We
it's,
have a bunch of features that comes from the EDU, such as whiteboard that comes definitely from
yeah.
EDU, translating and all of that stuff, that's all of EDU. And that is actually what Microsoft is doing very well. They listen to teachers, to students, and whenever they see an added value for enterprises, they just take them and bring them back to us. So that's a real added value as well.
Yep. Yeah, I see that somebody mentioned in the chat that it was released yesterday on my tenant. I think Microsoft posted a blog post late last week that by the end of this week, everybody will have it. So
Yeah.
for some of you, I put out now, but it's as fresh as you can get it from the oven. Most people only had it for 2, 3, 4 days now, as Microsoft just finished rolling it out. So lots of stuff to still discover. It might be so new that it's not fully deployed yet. So if you get into some random bugs, give it one more day. Maybe you got unlucky with timing, but definitely a brand new feature. Now talking about one that's been there, I think for about a month and a half now, Teams templates. Oh my God, Gokan, for how long have we been talking about templating for SharePoint before?
Since day zero, since SharePoint 2001, I think.
I think templating your collaboration workspaces has been a basic need of the enterprise since forever. It's like we have a project site and we want every project site, or now we shouldn't use the word site anymore. You can see my SharePoint background. But each project collaboration workspace should have, let's say, a Microsoft team with 3 channels, with those apps in the top, even have some files in there that are from the start, and have the different web parts and lists in the SharePoint site. So that's kind of been a thing since forever. And with SharePoint, we used to be able to do it in Classic. Remember the save site as template, which gave you the WSP file in Classic, Gokan.
Oh
And
my
then we
God.
had site designs and site scripts with modern SharePoint. The PMP team also did their own thing for modern SharePoint, and for Teams, actually. And now we have an official way of doing it through the Teams user interface. As an admin, you can create different templates, and then a user, when they go create a new team, they're going to be able to see that select from a template and see all of the different templates that your organization has enabled. I think this will make it a lot easier for organizations to add governance, or at least make it easier for admins to not have to recreate channels and and tabs all day long just to fit their needs.
So my part 2 demo will start with Teams templates, and I will show them the
Oh,
advantages
nice.
and drawbacks, because we have a lot of drawbacks with Team templating, and I will show that in a few
Oh, then I will
seconds.
not steal your thunder. I was going to mention some of them, but
No, no, no,
then
no,
I'm
no.
not going to steal your thunder. I'm going to keep quiet. But
Okay,
I'll
that's
be
great.
listening, Gokan. If you don't mention them, I'll cut you, just so you know.
Okay, 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 okay.
Okay, so this is amazing. Now, next one. Just I want to make sure we give enough time to Gokan after. We've been talking for a while, Gokan. Like you said, we can talk. Uh, Meeting recordings in SharePoint. Now, Microsoft has been using Stream for meeting recordings since the beginning, but I think not that Stream was a bad product, but people loved Stream, but they wanted to do more with Stream. I'll give you a really uh, basic example. I have a meeting with somebody from a different company. We record the meeting, and then I want to make sure they have access to it. but Stream could not do external sharing. So then I had to download it for Stream, put it in SharePoint or somewhere else, and then share it with them. Stream had no APIs either, so there was quite a few things that Stream was not able to do. So, and I think the external sharing for meeting recordings, being able to actually have governance around them. And to give you an example, I mean, Gokan, we're both in the IT pro world and we do a lot of PowerShell scripts. When you had, let's say you had a project and in it you had 100 meeting recordings, and then that project was done, you would delete, let's say you delete the group, you delete the team for that project. Because those meetings were in Stream and the way that it was actually architectured, the meetings would not be deleted with the rest of the project. So then that
Yes.
would still keep actual taking storage from your Stream quota, because that was another quota. And the management tools around Stream and some of the features were simply not there. And now Microsoft is going to use either OneDrive for Business or SharePoint for meeting recordings, depending on what type of meeting it is, if it's a channel meeting or if it's a, I would want to call it a personal meeting, but classical Outlook meeting, depending on how it's organized, is going to go in different places. And that will give us all of the benefits of SharePoint capabilities and governance for our meeting recordings as well. And the other cool thing is that, well, yeah, it'll just be so much easier. That's about it. Also, they'll bring a lot of the video benefits that kind of made Stream so fast for video to SharePoint as well. So it will make your whole SharePoint experience better. And that you can already enable it today. So right now it's at the opt-in phase. Starting January 7, it will be in the opt-out phase, meaning that unless you specifically tell it to stay in Stream, all new meetings recordings will switch to SharePoint and OneDrive for Business. And we'll share a link when we send the slides on where you can see the full timeline. Now, Gokan, the last new feature, and I think you're excited about this one, before you can start your best practices.
So we got a lot of times a question like, should we use Teams or should we use Outlook? Is a zero email in the enterprise possible? And I've got a lot of discussions around, uh, is Teams able to replace Outlook? And there is an industry expert called Tony Redmond, and he has a tremendous good site, office365itpress.com. And he is like one of the hugest Outlook or Exchange evangelists in the world. And he once said a sentence that really made the click in my head and said, Exchange is there for 22 years and it has the offline mode. And until we get the offline mode in Teams, it will never be able to replace Outlook, which is so correct. Today, if you don't have any 3G, 4G, or wireless in your environment, well, you can't do anything with Teams. However, Microsoft is aware of that issue today, and they promised us to do and bring some offline capabilities. And Anthony Redmond also on the left side, as you can see, had a feature comparison and showed us what is possible doing offline and what is not possible doing offline. And many of them is unavailable, right? As you can see, like the wikis, the list, whiteboard, Yammer communication, people card, a third-party app. It depends of the offline capability of that app. You can see a lot of is unavailable, but Microsoft is working on them. And I think being able to work on your Teams while you're offline is today, for me, my biggest ask. And if I had like 10 pennies today to bet on a few features on what Microsoft should invest the time and money to bring that feature live, all my money, including my house, my car, myself, would go on bringing Teams offline, because we are in a pandemic era, and we can't predict what's coming to the next years. Maybe we will have a COVID-20, COVID-24, XYZ. I really wish that will never happen, but we are never sure. but we need to have those tools which can help us working while we are traveling, while we have some issues home with the offline mode. So that's something that I really look forward as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Gokan. Now, do you want to take over the screen sharing and start your presentation? And while you do that, if any of the attendees you have any awesome features that you think will have a huge impact in 2021, put them either in the chat in the Q&A. Would love to hear from you as well.
Okay, so I had prepared a few slides, but we initially said with Vlad, let's talk 10 minutes. And we talked for 34 minutes.
That never works, Gokan. We never, when we say we're going to talk 10 minutes, we know it's going to be 30.
So what I will do is I will skip the few slides I had, and let's directly jump into the demo environment and show you what I promised about Teams templates. So if you want to use Teams templates today, and what I'm going to do is maybe, no, just move to the upside. No, okay, cool. So whenever you go to the admin of the Teams admin center, well, on the left side, you will see the Teams templates under the Teams section. And herein you will see a bunch of those Teams templates that Microsoft has provided to you. And on the upper side of the things, well, you can add a new template just by clicking on add. And then it will ask you 3 questions. Would you like to create a brand new template, use an existing theme as a template, or start with an existing template, and you can choose. So what I will now do as an example, I will start with a brand new one, and let's create our first template. I will give it the name Vlad's IT Pro template. And then you have to give a short description. What I will do is short desk, and then you have to give a long description, right? And then it asks you the location of your template, because it's going to use the language where the template is located. So let's keep it for United States, which is then English. Then the second page will ask you what kind of, how many channels you want to have in the template. So I'm going to add a channel, which is going to be like marketing. And then you can give a description. You can show it by default, yes or no. And then you can add an app in that channel, and that's really great. So I could say, okay, for that one, for that specific marketing channel, I want to have my SharePoint app. I want to have my planner app, and you can add them. And that's what I told a few seconds ago. One of the bad things with the Teams templating is, yes, you can add the tabs, but you cannot configure them. So yes, you can see I have my SharePoint just here, but I definitely cannot use them, and I cannot modify them as I could do, like adding a page or a list or a document library in my SharePoint. Well, that's not possible. If I hit and submit, well, now my template will be saved, and it will come back just here in the Teams template sessions. And I can, again, add a new one. I can edit my template, delete it, or duplicate it. So if I come back to my Teams experience and hit on join or create a team, well, if I hit on create a team, I should be able to see Vlad's IT Pro template, which is just here. Very, very simple. In a few clicks, you can create a new template. The thing with that is, remember, we never had the question of if you could add an image, and I can see the option of adding an image, while those here has a specific image for each template. I never got the question of adding an image, so that's a bad thing as well. Another bad thing is this template is available for everyone, literally everyone. So you can't scope your template for a specific team, M365 group, or for a specific person. So whenever you create a template, that's going to be available for anyone in the organization, and anyone can just use them. Another bad thing with that is if you hit on that, right, it will show you that you will have like 2 channels, which has 2 apps. And if you hit on start, well, the templating engine is, and I'm sorry to say that, extremely slow. While creating a simple theme will take you a few seconds, this could go up to 5 minutes. And don't ask me why this is the case, but if you ever want to use templates, just be sure that this is gonna take some time. Another thing is, and let's create a new team, or can I just use an existing one? Oh, let's create a new one. I will create a new site from scratch. It will ask me if it's going to be a private or a public. A private team is whenever people need permission to join. So you as a team owner, you can add people, or in a public one, anyone can join your team. As you can see on my screen, I have a bunch of those public teams. People can easily just click and join. I will create a public one and I will just call it Vlad's IT Pro session. And I'm going to create that. And what you will see now, within a few seconds, that screen will disappear. Now I got a nice work. It asks me if I want to add people. I'm going to skip that. And what you will see is in a couple of seconds, my team is just here. And what Microsoft loves to say is that Teams loves SharePoint. And it is true, if you go under the Files umbrella, under the Files tab of Microsoft Teams, well, it is backed by SharePoint. So you can add some files, you can add your storage into your team. And if I open this into SharePoint, well, I will be redirected to SharePoint. I will just authenticate myself. And what you will see now is that I'm into my Vlad's IT Pro session, which is a SharePoint site, which is connected to an M365 group, and that's connected to my team. And now within the documents or the shared document library for those who have been doing SharePoint for a while, well, you will see my files just here. And what you see here is that there is a general folder, and that general folder, well, it is the same as my channel. It is a correct statement to say that each channel is equal to a folder into your SharePoint. And let's make a test. What I will do is I will add a new channel from here, and I will call this marketing, right? So I'm going to add this, and while this has been added in a couple of seconds, if I go back to my SharePoint, if I just do a refresh, well, you will see a new folder being created just under the general, which is called marketing. So my statement was correct. Each channel is equal to a folder into SharePoint. That literally means that if I upload a file from a SharePoint perspective, and let's add something really quick under my, this is going to take a while because it's a little bit too much. And this is like, okay, so what I will just upload this one. So while uploading that item into my SharePoint site under the marketing, well, after it has completed the upload, and we'll just have to wait a couple of seconds because I'm on the pool, like Vlad mentioned, and the 4G isn't at the best. Okay, there we go. The file has been uploaded into my SharePoint. So if I go back to my marketing and go under the files, well, what you will see is that the PowerPoint presentation is available here. That literally means that XYZ, marketing, HR, IT, can still work with SharePoint and use the whole experience of SharePoint with the metadata, with the views, with X, with Y, with Z, with the feature sets, and still you can see all of those documents within your Microsoft Teams. But here is a trick. If I add a new channel and call this marketing again, well, Teams will say, Gokan, you cannot do this because Teams, well, there is already a marketing channel. So what a lot of people will do is they will open the emoji bar, which is with window, comma button at the same time. And you can add a bunch of those emojis into your Teams. What I will now do is I will add a $sign. I'm going to search for the dollar, and here we go. And now suddenly Teams will say, okay, you can now add that channel into Vlad's IT Pro session team because it's slightly different from this one. I'm going to add this. Now I have a new channel which is called marketing, but we can discuss here about money. Remember what I told you? Each channel is equal to a folder. But now this statement is not correct anymore because I have Teams with Gokan into my newly created channel, which is so strange, right? Because I never uploaded any document into marketing $sign. I uploaded them into marketing just here, and it's available on the other side as well. So let's check in the backend what happened with SharePoint. I'm going to refresh and go back to my documents. What you will see now is that there is no marketing $ folder. So the provisioning engine between Teams and SharePoint literally didn't understand the $. So instead of creating that, he said, oh, I already have a marketing folder, so let's use that. So what I will now do is I will just hit on the 3 dots and rename that. And I will do renamed on SharePoint. And now SharePoint will say, okay, this is done. You have renamed your folder, your PowerPoint presentation. If I come back to my Teams and go on marketing $, well, you will see that the folder has been renamed on SharePoint and in marketing as well. Renamed on SharePoint. Governance, governance, governance. That's the reason why team templates is extremely important for you, and you don't have to use the out-of-the-box team templates capabilities. You have a bunch of other tools and industry experts, writing scripts, Office Dev PNP, as Vlad mentioned. You have Follow Internet with Teamwork. You have AvePoint with their solutions. You have a bunch of other great vendors on the market providing you templating, because that kind of issues, well, that's gonna bring your collaboration from magnificent to meh. Another example here is if I add a new channel which is called marketing, and then add a new emoji with a heart sign. Well, now again, Teams will say, okay, you can do that. And I can already see a few people saying like, Gokan, why are you showing this? Because there is literally no difference between the first and the second emoji. Apparently, there is a difference. If I go under files, well, now, strangely, there is no PowerPoint presentation. Okay, let's go back to SharePoint. What's going to happen now is if I hit on documents, well, suddenly now I have a marketing with a heart sign. Now the provisioning engine between Teams and SharePoint could understand the ASCII code of my heart emoji, and now I have a folder. And honestly, to be honest with all of you, if you add a new channel, and if you hit on window semicolon button, you have hundreds of emojis. Honestly, I didn't test all of them. I just tested a few one, and those two are literally giving some issues whenever you create them. And that's really, really, really not great. Another example with the Teams loves SharePoint story is I could say like something like Vlad's French is horrible as a channel name. And that's really unprofessional from my part. But if you don't block this, or if you don't apply any governance, well, that's things that's going to happen. Honestly, anyone can do that. If you don't have at least a little bit governance around Teams, that's a thing that's going to happen. And what people can do, they can just start collaboration on that. They can start a conversation. They can upload files. But then you, as the manager, can go to Vlad or Gokan and say like, oh my gosh, this is not possible. This is not professional. Gokan, please rename that or delete and start again. So what you will do is you will say, okay, from a Teams experience, I'm going to edit this channel and call this project Nightfall. Right? Nightfall. And if you save that, well, great, from Teams, that will work. That is amazing. Project Nightfall. And I have here into my general channel under my post that this has been changed. However, if I go back to my SharePoint and if I hit on refresh, well, Vlad's French is horrible is still there. I'm going to just refresh just to be sure. Again, Vlad's horrible French. Why? That's not good. That's definitely not good because I still have some traces under my SharePoint and I want to avoid that. So what a lot of people will do, they will just hit on the 3 dots and they will say, okay, I'm going to rename this to Project Nightfall. It has the same name, so why wouldn't that work? And SharePoint lets you do that, right? I can rename that. So a big congrats, honestly, a big congrats. You now have broken Teams and SharePoint. How great is this? This item might not exist or is no longer available. You just broke the unique link between your channel and your SharePoint folder. So what happens if you hit on retry? Well, then magically it will work. However, again, with the same name, which is called Vlad's French is horrible. If I go back to my SharePoint, Vlad's French is horrible is now back with that specific name. Teams loves SharePoint. Yes, that's true, but it has some little artifacts to be better, to be honest with you all. Another cool thing with that is the following one. You can add a new channel, which is again a SharePoint, and I could have a project Skyfall, not a Nightfall, but Skyfall, and I could have this as a private one. So whenever you did this, the provisioning engine will now create a standalone SharePoint site, which is not Teams connected. So you will see a new icon, a log icon under Project Skyfall. And if you go under Files, and if I open this into SharePoint, well, what's going to happen now is it's going to be the same experience. However, you will see this folder is connected to a channel in Teams. You will see go to channel conversation. You will see go to channel. And if I go up on an upper level, well, I don't have my general. I don't have marketing with a heart sign. And the reason is simple. It's because the name, the site is a standalone site, and it is not something connected to your team. Something else that I want to show you is if Vlad's IT Pro session is not something for you, well, you can also remove that and rename that. You could have like Project Cortex as a name. Well, that's great. You can rename that. And from a Teams perspective, that's going to be renamed. However, if you go under your team, under your SharePoint, and what I will do is I will just make this bigger because the Zoom banner is really disturbing for me. What's going to happen now is if I just refresh that one, this one, this one. So if I do a refresh, well, at some point, I've seen that the Vlad's IT Pro session will disappear and it will get a new name. Like you can see that the Project Cortex, you can see it from an M365 group perspective, this has been renamed. Like if my mouse is hovering on top of that, you can see Project Cortex. But the name here, well, in some cases it renames, some cases it doesn't. It just whenever he wants. That's still okay. That's still, you have multiple ways on finding workarounds to rename that. But that here, that's not good. The renaming in Teams will not affect the rename into the URL of your SharePoint. A common practice, and I'm not calling this a best practice, I'm calling it a common practice, is to create your teams with unique identifiers. Meaning, if you come here and create a team, well, it should be something like that. I'm going to create from scratch. It could be a private one. And you could give your team like something like team, like something like IT, the year, and then create something like a project, and then give the 3 first letters of your project, like Skyfall, something like that. And whenever you create that, well, the provisioning engine will now create a new team with a new M365 group, with a new SharePoint site, with always the IT 2020 project Skyfall. And now it doesn't matter if this project is now called Project Skyfall or Project Nightfall. I'm just guessing some names. It doesn't really matter. This will change. However, the URL will always remain identical to the unique identifier you have defined in your governance. And that's something that will actually avoid a lot of headaches with renaming, projects getting renamed, URLs getting renamed. And now it could have any name into your environment. This is still okay because this is unique. It's an IT project from 2020, and the project is called Project Skyfall. And then you can rename it as much as you want. This is going to still be accurate for your environment. So definitely something really, really great. So what I will now show you is the following one. I have a Project Skyfall, right? And I will now edit this and I will copy the name. I will delete that private channel. Yes, it will say, are you sure you want to delete that? All conversations will be deleted and this can't be undone. It mentions about conversations, but not about the data. So not about the SharePoint site. I'm going to delete that and I will create a new one. I will give the same name and I will give it as a private. Teams is not complaining However, if I hit on next, well, it will say this one has already been taken and you cannot use that. That's, again, a big, I'm not going to call it a fail, but an issue, because if you want to create, if you delete a private channel and in a few moments later you want to just reuse the same name, well, it's not going to be possible. And the only way is to hire Vlad so he can come with his PowerShell magic and skills and try to find the site, delete that site, and then create, and you can create a new private channel, which is then with Project Cortex. Teams loves SharePoint, that's for sure, but it's a complicated love story. You have to understand what the complications are with SharePoint and Teams. Something really great as well with Teams is that you have the tags, and anyone who knows what Instagram and Twitter is, and that has used Twitter and LinkedIn and all of those social media, well, should understand what the tag is. So you can create a tag which is like SharePoint admins as a tag, and then you can add some people into that tag. So whenever you use that word, well, those people will get a notification. That's easy as it is. So a lot of people are just creating some tags like this, SharePoint dev, right? And I will add myself because I have no other user in my test environment, right? And let's create something like called marketing. And I will add this Gokan as well. And I will just create a new one, a fourth tag, which is called marketing with a heart sign. There we go. And I will add Gokan. So I have just created 4 new tags, which I can use into any of my conversations. And I just can't remember, was it in Project Nightfall or in Project Cortex? Oh, it was in Project Cortex. Cool. So I could come into my general and start a new conversation and hit on this one and say like, hey, simple question, start a new conversation. And I could say, I have a question related to WSP. Who can help me? And then you can just come and mention those tags by writing SharePoint. And I can mention those just here. SharePoint, dev, then marketing as a tag. Oh, maybe I want to tag marketing as a channel, but I want to tag marketing as a tag as well. And I can use this one. And as you can see from that screen, the SharePoint admin, SharePoint dev, marketing, the channel marketing, the tag marketing, they all look the same. From a productivity perspective, this is a nightmare because now it's still okay-ish, but if you have like a huge text that you want to mention people, that you have a big announcement to do, and you have like 30 tags and 40 channels to mention, and with a bunch of people you want to get into that, well, at the end, you don't know what blue was a tag or a channel or a people or a team. The only way of knowing that is by just sending them, and then you will see that the tags are actually now in red. And now what you will see, if I hover on SharePoint admin, it will mention that this is a tag with one member and I can chat with that group. So now the chat is disabled because I'm talking to myself, so automatically that's disabled. However, if you had multiple people into that group, well, you could start a chat from here. What I say as a common practice to the organizations is whenever you add a tag, please use the hashtag in front. So you have marketing like this, and I can add Gokan here. And then if you start a new conversation or write some new comment here, well, you could say, okay, I have now my marketing, and I have this marketing, which is now a channel, right? Now, visually, by just adding a hashtag in front of those tags, well, I can know if this is a tag or a channel. Again, governance is extremely important. Knowing what you're doing with those kind of things is extremely important. When we talk about governance, well, you have a few things available for you in Microsoft Teams as well as in Azure. One of them is the naming convention, and let me show that to you. Whenever you go under the Azure AD portal, and let me authenticate myself. I will just sign in. Well, you have a bunch of options with naming conventions within Teams. And this one for me is extremely important as well. Well, you have under Azure AD directory, under the groups, a few options. Whenever you create a team, well, you can actually block some words. Remember when I created Vlad's ugly French? Well, ugly is maybe a word that you want to avoid. And using that, well, what you can do is you can just download a CSV file, add up to 5,000 blocked words, and upload that CSV again. So that literally means that whenever someone creates a team and uses one of those words that you have in your CSV file, well, he will be blocked by doing that. He cannot do that. Another thing that I really love, but this is again some love and hate story, because maybe Vlad has some explanation for that, but I literally have no explanation for that. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. But you can have some policies for the group naming, and you can have a prefix and a suffix. Vlad, maybe you can say why this in some scenarios works and don't work, because I'm adding a prefix and the M365 will come in the front. And you can also add a suffix as a group and here, and then this will be the group name. And I've seen in many scenarios that this was failing.
Gokan, I think I know why.
Okay.
Are you a global admin?
I am a global admin.
The policy does not apply to admins.
And that's the reason why. Okay.
I literally spent about 1 week, and I was working on a Pluralsight course a while ago, and I put in the slides, right? I created my slides, I did okay. Remember, it does not apply to admin, so make sure you try with a user. And of course, do as I say, not do as I do. And I configure it, and then I relog in 1 day later, still not working. I relog in 3 days later, it's still not working. Relog in 1 week later, still not working. I was like, what am I doing wrong? Then I re-verify everything, and I'm like, I'm dumb. Yes, if you log in with a normal user in the tenant, it will work, but it doesn't work for any admin role. So for any admin role, it doesn't apply.
How fantastic is that? I've learned something new in my own webinar. Thank you so much, Vlad. But at least now you have the explanation for the why the group naming policy doesn't work for me. It's because I'm a global admin, but this is definitely something I recommend you to use if you create some new teams and M365 groups. It will give a minimum of governance. Team templates for the team channels and teams apps, and the group naming policy, and blocked words for the M365 group naming and group blocking words. With a few steps, a few things to do in the Azure Admin Center and in the Teams Admin Center, well, you can do that very, very easily. If we go further and we just move on and just go in one of those Teams meetings, let me start with discarding this, and you can just hit on the reply and you can start a new Meet Me, which means you can have a conversation, a video call with the persons who are in this conversation, or you can also have a Meet Me in your channel. You can even create a new meeting via Outlook or via the calendar app here, 1,000 way of creating meetings. What I will show you is the following one. I will start a new Meet Now option, and I can just give it a name, Vlad's IT Pro. I don't know why I'm always using that one. Oh my gosh, session, there we go. And I can just say like, okay, I'm gonna use my mic, just join now. And now the meeting will start and just use that new meeting experience. What's really, really great with that is if I share content, is that you will get on the upper left right side, the whiteboard app. And the whiteboard app is something that really amazes me. And I really encourage everyone to use that application. while ago, where we were still using Link server or Skype for Business server, whenever someone was presenting, it was the same experience as we had now. One is talking and the 9 others are listening, the 40 others are listening. Today, with the whiteboard app, I can now actually draw something just here as a database, which has a connection to my Azure. And I'm very sorry for my bad drawing skills, or it has a connection to a public client, I don't know, and anybody in that call can just take the pencil and draw with you. So we are going away from a one-to-many conversation to a many-to-many conversation. So that's really amazing. And take the example that if someone in the team actually couldn't come to this meeting, well, and let's hope I have the app. There we go. He can use the whiteboard app, which is free from the store. You just download that app, and that app will use your token, your credentials, to see what kind of whiteboards you have access to. And now you will see I have a bunch of red ones, yellow ones. So he's updating all the new whiteboards I had. So take the example that I missed the last meeting. I can just come through my whiteboard and open this whiteboard, and then I would be able to see the last drought meeting. And now it looks like it is empty. But however, it should be the case. Now it looks like it is empty. You could do that. And people who missed the meeting can just come and see the drawing. What's really great is you can add some images as well. And I'm going to add a library image. And let me see, there we go. I have a previous drawing from a whiteboard meeting, and I want to continue the discussion on that. Well, you could say, Gokan, this is not rocket science. You just added an image on a whiteboard. The real magic starts when you hit on that little ink. And now AI behind whiteboard will transform that image for you into a real drawing, which literally means that you could take a pencil or a pen, and then you could just continue your drawing by saying, oh my gosh, this is the sales for this year. So a huge congrats for the whole team. And this is where the collaboration gets a next level, because you just added on a meeting where you were not there, a drawing which has been transformed by AI in Azure, and you just give your own insight, and everyone which is part of that team, which is part of that meeting, can now see your drawings. Again, my apologies for my bad drawing skills. So let me see, what do I have next into my list? Okay, cool. Something really, really great as well is what we explained with Vlad is the apps that we have. The first one is the Tasks by Planner. Oh, and by the way, if you want to add those apps, you just have to go just here under apps, and then you can search for those apps, and you can just hit on them and add them. If they're not blocked by the policy, you can just add them and use them. So we have the 3 apps. I will just show you in a few seconds what you can do with the 3 apps that we have been announcing as new features. Remember the Tasks by Planner and To Do, which is like a combination of the Planner app and the To Do app into one single view. Well, you will see all of your tasks here, and you can see I have like 3 tasks, which is Present with Vlad, which is like a high priority with a due date. I have another one which is like Prepare the demo environment, which is not priority, which has a due date. And I have an unplanned items, which is non-prio and which has no due date. If I come under important, I will see only the one which is like important. I will see the 2 which, because they have like a due date. And then I can also see from other channels, other plans, if I have items planned on me. So those 3 are actually somehow about my to-dos. And this one is literally items that are coming from other plans, which we call shared plans. You can create a new list from here and give it a name, shared list project Falcon. And then you can create that task into one of those themes that we have created. Remember the project Nightfall? Well, I can create that, and I can even use a channel. And whenever I do create that, it will create a new shared plan for me, and I can start collaborating on that into my single screen. This is a game changer. This is something we have been waiting for years, because now I don't have to scroll in between those plans and teams. Now, every single shared plan I have access to will be listed into that tasks my plan run to do, and I can see all my tasks and prioritize if necessary. Power Apps, Dataverse. Remember, we talked about Dataverse and how important it is, or it was for a lot of organizations. Well, you can again search within the app section with Power Apps and add them, and then this beautiful screen will come up to you. Well, you can build an app within 5 minutes accordingly to Microsoft. You can use the predefined templates, or you can see what you can do here with the Learn section and learn about the Dataverse in Microsoft Teams. Whenever you hit on create an app, well, it will ask you to provide the name and to choose, as we had in the tasks about, to select a team. Well, now you can just select a team. It failed 3 times today. So let's hope that the demo goats are with me. What I will do is I will create it now. Now it will create actually my environment just for me, so I can use it. So I will just, well, there we go. I have a new error. What will happen now is he will still proceed with the environment. I don't know why it's failing, but hey, let's keep it very short. If I go under the build, it will show me the apps where I have access to. And you can see that I have like an app which is called Microsoft Teams. I have my team, Project Cortex and Teams, and that I can build my apps on top of that. I have my installed apps. I can add, there we go. I have notification that the environment has created for me. I can see all my apps herein, and I can see build herein. If I go here, well, I can add my app. I can even add my chatbot. If I hit on app, I will go on the well-known designer page of Power App. Now my Power App, which is connected to my Dataverse, is now available for me within the designer screen from Microsoft Teams. So let's hope, again, that this will not fail. And there we go, it works. Now I can give a name. I will call this Project Gokan. And you can save that. And now I can easily create my app within Microsoft Teams and use the Dataverse, which is connected into my environment. So here we go. I can create a new table in my database, and I can give it a name. It could be something like street, just giving some basic information, and then I can just create that. And that table now is available for me, and then I can add some rows, some columns. You can just give some data, and let me give you Rue du Paruc. And I'm going to talk with my ugly Canadian accent. Numéro 42. There we go, something like that. And I'm going to close that. So you're actually now filling in your Dataverse with some data. And then you can definitely use that data in your Power Apps. And look, there we go. I have my data just herein. So if I just do now preview, well, this is your app. It's simple. I didn't do anything. And you have a bunch of options to modify your application. Well, I have my data, Rue du Paruc. And if I hit on new record, well, I can add something new, Rue du Gokanet, which is like a street in Belgium. And I can just add this. And now I added a new value into my Dataverse. As easy as it is. Microsoft said, build your app in 5 minutes. Well, I did build my app in 1 minute. It is extremely simple. It is simple as it is. I just created a table, just added a field, and now I can add data into my field. You can definitely make a lot more complex than what I'm only showing. This is like the basic. This is like showing that from Power App, you can create your Dataverse, create your table, create your field, and that will help you to use that. You can save this, and I recommend you to save every app every month. It is a common practice to save it every 6 months, but with the all changes coming through, I really encourage you to do this every month. And then you can publish to teams. Whenever you publish to teams, this will be available for everyone which is part of Project Gokan. Easy, extremely easy. Flow, it's again the same. You can go to the app section and add your flow application and connect to Teams, and then you can create flows directly from your team. Again, you don't have to go to the Flow Admin Center. You don't have to do anything. All of them are available here. I can see my flows running here. I can see the templates. And what's really, really, really good, and I'm pretty sure Vlad uses it every single day, is about approvals. If I have an approval, well, that will be listed just here. And I can see the received ones, the ones that I've sent, and even a history. So this is, for me, again, a deal breaker. You can also go into the create section, and then you can create a bunch of new flows from those templates. And this one, like approval or the calendar or data collection, you can just use them. You can consume what Microsoft is providing to you, or you can even create something from Black. What's really coming with that one is, hey, if I add a new app, well, you see a bunch of those applications, and I'm pretty sure not everyone likes the idea of having all applications available for the organization. So what you can do is you can go under the admin center, and herefore I have to do this again. So under the admin center, you have here what we call the Teams apps. So I will just make this bigger. There we go, Teams apps. And under the manage apps, well, you will see all the apps that actually are part of your environment. And it should be something like 700. Oh, wow. It was like 791 a few weeks ago. Now it's already 834. So you have 834 apps that you could potentially install and use within Microsoft Teams. You have some policies to block Microsoft apps, to block anything else than Microsoft apps, etc., etc. However, if you have a lot of time, well, you could just come here and then say like, okay, I want to block this app. Yes. And now that app is blocked from your environment and you cannot install this. Or you can just, again, come here and allow this app, and that app will be allowed for you. If you go to the policies, just here, well, we have the global one, which is like for everyone. And if I open this, it gives you like 3 choices: allow Microsoft apps, third-party apps, or custom apps. And then you can just see, I can allow all the apps, allow specific apps, and block all the others, allow block specific apps and allow all the others, or block all apps. Honestly, I've never seen any customer blocking all Microsoft apps. But hey, maybe in some scenarios, in some organizations, that's still possible. But at least you can do that. It's all possible to do. A final thing, and then I think we have only 4 minutes left. What should I show? Because I have like, Vlad, I'll let you choose. Should I show Microsoft Lists, or should I show a workaround on how we can schedule a post on Microsoft Teams?
Ooh, that's a really tough one. But you know what? I already have a full webinar with Microsoft Lists with Mark Cashman. So go with the workaround. That's always more
Oh,
fun
okay.
to see.
Okay, a workaround. So take the example that you want to, well, with Teams, you can start a new conversation. If you hit herein, well, you can have a new conversation or announcement. The bad thing with that is that you cannot make a schedule into those announcements. So if you have like Vlad is fired and Gokan is the new CEO, this could be an announcement, is the new CEO. Well, the bad thing is in no of those options, you have a way to schedule this. And I have found a way on how you could do that, right? Every channel you have in Teams has an email. So if you hit on those 3 buttons in any of those channels, well, you have get email address. So by default, none of those channels has an email address. You have to click on get email to have an email address. The thing here is that something created by Microsoft for you, and you cannot change this. So this is something unique for you, and you have to use it as it is. You have some options here. You can just, let anyone send an email, only members of this team, or only specific domains. What I will do is I will just allow anyone to send an email. So what you can do is copy this email, and then come into your favorite email, and then send an email to that specific channel. and then you could say new CEO, welcome to Gokan. And then you could just have your text, hey, blah, 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 and then just remove all of this to make things very easy into email. And then just here, under the options, you have a delay delivery. You can hit on that, and then you could say, okay, let's send this today at 19:21. And I want this to be like high important. And if you just hit on close and hit on send, now what you will see, well, we have to wait, unfortunately, 2 minutes. I could have done maybe like 20, but at 19:21, a new thread will be started into this channel, and I have scheduled now a post with my text coming here. So this is a workaround. Unfortunately, by default, the option doesn't exist, but with a combo of Outlook and Teams, you can have scheduled posts.
I have some questions for you, Gokan, while we wait.
Oh, okay, cool. I have just one thing to show. Well, just go for the questions. Go for the questions.
Okay, so a question, is the whiteboard app available by default, or do you need to add it explicitly?
You have to add it explicitly by the store. So it is not because you have your operating system that whiteboard app is there, but you have to add it, the app at least on your window. And if the admin didn't block it, it should be available as well in your Teams.
Awesome. Can you show us again where you clicked to create a template?
To create a template, okay, cool. So you have to go under the admin. So admin, and oh my gosh, that's
admin.teams.microsoft.com.
Yeah, this URL, and then under Teams, you have the theme templates, and then you can add a new template from here.
Awesome, thank you. Can you, again about templating, can you export the template, or is the template to be available for self-service? For instance, we have a Power App that takes team requests and then provisions those teams after approval.
So my answer would be no, it is not exportable, or it is not, well, actually, see this as an MVP. It is still a very, very basic tool, and correct me if I'm wrong, Vlad, right? This is extremely basic.
It's new.
Yeah, with really, really the minimum as features, but I don't think you can do what you're expecting to do with all of those Power Apps and exporting, etc., etc.
It's definitely not a full governance solution yet. It doesn't have approval. It doesn't have all of those features.
Unfortunately, yeah. It's going to be a big challenge.
Okay. Another idea. There we go. I'll
and
let
there
you
we go.
talk about this for a bit.
Yeah. And then you got, actually very quickly, it's 1921, and I got my new CEO, hi, the blah, blah, which is now marked as important, and I get my new icon important. So I actually schedule the posts within Outlook and have them into Teams. So that was a quick workaround as well to show you on how you can schedule things in Teams.
Awesome. Another way, an idea by Bryce here is you can also do a Power Automate and a bot, but that would take a bit more work than the 3 minutes it took you.
Oh, that's well, sky is the limit. If you know all the tools, sky is the limit. You could even do like, well, yeah. Honestly, I can't even answer to that. Brian is right. You can do a lot, which will take much longer than the 3 minutes I took. But my thing was just to show you what the capabilities are from a minimum perspective.
Awesome. 2 more questions so far, and we still got 8 minutes. So from David, what's the best way to organize guest users for a smoothless interaction of documentation?
Of documentation?
I think document collaboration.
Oh, document collaboration. That's a good question, actually. Today, the governance around users, external users, is not that easy because, if I'm not wrong, Vlad, correct me, in February, Microsoft Teams will have, by default, now guest access open to anyone, right? That's something on
If,
the
yeah,
roadmap.
so they will open it in Teams, but you still need to enable it in Azure. If you don't enable it in Azure, the Teams setting doesn't have any impact. But yes, you are right.
So basically, that means that if you don't have a proper governance in the backend to handle all of those requests, it's going to be difficult. And my advice to you is, well, you can have a third-party tool that can help you managing your external users and have some life cycle into your teams. You could have a team with external users and have a life cycle on that team. And if after 90 days of inactivity, well, you can delete that and then you can just remove that users. Or you can also do some manual work and scripting work. It all depends on how you want to work and what you can do. But what I know is that on Azure and an M365 perspective, the options are very low on doing that. Vlad, do you know maybe a way on how we can automate that?
Not really right away.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So you have to get a third-party tool, or you have to script and do some manual stuff to have it. Or you could do as many other big organizations and just block, which is like a bad idea, but you could just block all external access. That's also a possibility.
Okay, last question, and maybe this is something you know about. This was a question when we asked what other features would you be looking for uh, in for Teams, a co-organizer role in Teams, so not a presenter, but more like a co-organizer. I guess like a moderator as well. Do you know anything about something cool like this coming?
Well, we already have this, but it's called like we have a presenter and a producer.
But
So
that's
you
in
can.
live events, right?
Oh, you want to have this in normal meetings, in
I
personal
think so, yeah, because
meetings.
you're right. It exists already in live events,
Yeah,
but not in meetings.
that's a fancy idea. Honestly, that would be also something cool. Although, let me think. No, you don't have the option. Yeah, that would be something cool. Definitely,
Yeah, because
that would
you're
be
an
something cool.
organizer and you have a lot more. Yeah,
Yeah, like having a moderator option where you can
yeah,
just
where you
handle the
have more
questions.
rights than the presenter, which is basically share a screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely makes sense. Definitely makes sense.
Awesome. Well, that is it for the questions, Gokan. We still have 4 minutes left. Any final words?
Yes, and I have a gift for everyone, which is part of that webinar. We have a free ebook to offer to everyone, and I hope that Vlad, you can also send this whenever you send out the recording that you can download. It's all about Microsoft Teams and SharePoint and how the love story has been built around SharePoint. It will show you everything that I've explained to you today, so you can just download a copy and then read it and then enjoy all the benefits of Microsoft Teams.
And you wrote that one, right?
Yes, that's my ebook.
Okay, so we know it's good quality then.
Oh, thank you so much.
I was gonna make a joke, but I was like, no, I won't. Uh, hey, Gokan, thank you very much for taking the time from your sunny pool in Turkey to talk to us about Microsoft Teams. I'm sure everyone has enjoyed, and thanks again for taking the time to share your knowledge.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you so much for having me. And I really hope that at least a few people have enjoyed, learned, and they will share their knowledge with others so we can have the best of each world in our organizations.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of your day and enjoy the holidays. Try to take some time off. I know for some of you, if you're in Australia, it's the summer holidays. For some of us, it's the winter ones, but enjoy the holidays and looking forward to the next amazing webinars in 2021.